Well, hello and welcome. Are you thinking about cruising? Well, if you are, join me as I discuss the 5 things we love about cruising and the 5 things we're not so keen on. So just to give you some context, just under 3 years ago, myself, Marcus, and my wife Mel set off on our very first taster cruise. And this week, we're about to embark on our 15th cruise. That should give you some indication that for us, the pros of cruising far outweigh the cons. By the way, if you're a regular cruiser, let us know what you like or dislike about cruising. Comment below. And no weirdos. Lists like these can be very subjective, so be polite. Anyway, let's get started. And let's start with the positives. What we like about cruising. Let's have a look at my list. First one, seasickness. That's the wrong one. That's the dislikes. I'll come back to you. Very quickly, I've noticed I'm saying I and we quite a lot interchangeably. That's because, unfortunately, my wife, Mel, couldn't be with me. But don't worry, viewers, she will be in the next one, or hopefully, anyway. Well, number 1 for us is the value for money. It's very good value for money. We used to do a lot of traditional holidays and road trips, hence the name of the channel, Fly, Drive, Explore. But since COVID especially, the prices have gone up a lot. After taking the first cruise, 3 years ago, you get a lot for your money. Obviously, you get your accommodation, then you get the transportation, you get to go somewhere, and you get all the food included. So all the basics are covered. The app charges are for things like trips and alcohol. We'll get to those a bit later. But generally, the value for money is exceptional. Well, number 2, the entertainment. Don't worry, it's not all like cabaret Butlins type stuff. It depends on what cruise line you go on and is it a themed cruise. Generally, on some of the brands, there is that Butlins club type general cabaret. But on some cruise lines, they have some really good shows. Like we were on Royal Caribbean, which isn't our cup of tea, but Mel really enjoyed. They had the full show of Mamma Mia on there. And I think currently they got the full show of Grease. And we went on Queen Mary 2, and that was the BFI Film Festival at Sea. So they had actors, directors. On that one, I actually chatted with Gurinder Chadha. She was the director of Bend It Like Beckham and Blinded by the Lights, and that was really entertaining. And also, on Queen Mary as well, on another trip, they had the Royal Shakespeare Company doing a show. Recently on Virgin, it was the Comedy Festival at Sea with Jack Whitehall. So have a check, have a look around. Let me check, what number are we on now? Number 3, you get to visit multiple destinations on one trip. So recently, back in November, we were on Celebrity Infinity, and that went to Greece, we went to Montenegro, Croatia, Italy, Naples, which is Italy obviously, but you got to see Athens, Rome, Kotor, Barcelona, all on one trip. And if we did that separately, the costs would add up. It's an amazing trip, that one of our favourite itineraries. Well, number 4, no fly. You can avoid airports. Well, that's if you take a cruise from your home country, obviously. But many people don't like flying. Mel's not keen, but she will fly, but she tries to avoid it. And it's not just the people, like I don't mind flying, but to me, every time we go to the airport, they become more stressful and more barriers and more queues and more rude staff and more inspections. So a cruise can avoid all that nonsense, a no-fly cruise from your home country. Although you've got the disembarkation and embarkation procedures, they're not half as bad as airports. So definitely no-fly cruises are a plus point. I forgot to mention, it's not just cruising. Last year we went to New York on Queen Mary 2, and we went by Queen Mary 2 as a way of getting to America, not just cruising, instead of flying. Mel wanted to go to Dollywood, so we drove down to Tennessee on a road trip. I'll link that below, it's good fun. Anyway, no flying. So on to number 5, our last one, and that's relaxation. Cruising can be really relaxing, but that depends on the cruise line. We'll get onto that on the negatives, but generally it is really relaxing. Just imagine the sun's out, there's a gentle breeze, you're looking out at the blue sea, ocean views, a waiter's coming around with a cocktail. That's what we like. Although on other ships, there could be a rubbish DJ pumping out really annoying songs and somebody on a zip line going past your head. So we'll go on to that a bit later. Choose your cruise line carefully. Right, this is only going to be a shorter video because we do have to pack. We're going in a few days. We can't wait. Anyway, should we go on to the 5 things we dislike? Yeah, let's go on to the 5 things we dislike. Again, remember, this is our list. It can be very different depending on people's circumstances, what they like and dislike. Anyway, the 5 things we dislike. Well, the first item on the list is the thing that puts us off cruising for a long time, and that's seasickness. Mel's not a good traveller, and I'm even worse. I was actually sick once in an elevator. I won't go into that. But since we have been cruising, like I said, we're just about to go on our 15th cruise. And we've done 1, 2, 3 transatlantic trips in the autumn. By the way, ignore what people say. Irrespective of the size of the ship, you can feel the motion. So when people say, oh, you can't feel a thing, you can, okay? That's a lot of rubbish. Obviously, the bigger ships can be more stable, and it depends on the weather. That's the main thing, isn't it? But what I found is if you take the medication before you actually set sail or before the weather gets rough, it does work. I don't think I've been seasick properly once, and we have been in some heavy seas. Our Virgin trip was quite bad across the Bay of Biscay, and the transatlantic was quite bad on Arvia on the initial couple of days. I took the tablets before and I was fine. And on the Arvia, I think a lot of people were sick who didn't take anything. So take the medication if you can. And I go for the proper medication, none of these funny wristbands or anything like that. I go for the hard drugs. The only downside, they do knock you out. It does make you sleep. But there again, you're on holiday. So there we are. Number 1, seasickness. Number 2, this could depend on which cruise line you're with or which ship you're on. Some ships do feel crowded, especially on a sea day or if the weather's bad and everyone's inside. Our worst experience has been MSC. For us, there are just too many people on that ship. But remember, this is subjective. Some people love it and they're doing quite well, so obviously quite a few people love it, but it's not for us. But even on some of the nicer ships, what they call more premium ships, there are pinch points, like buffets in the morning or buffets on sea days, maybe getting off the ship for an excursion. So they always have these areas, unless you go really ultra high-end cruising, you're going to get these pinch points. But compared to other forms of travel, they're much nicer. Like on our recent Celebrity Infinity, that was like 2,000 people on board, and there's plenty of space on that ship. I think in our limited experience, all the older ships we've been on, obviously they're smaller, and they do give you more space. And on the alternative then is to pay up and go in the upper class areas. It sounds like the Titanic, go in the ship in the ship concept, but then you pay more. But generally, I prefer older ships. I'll let you know our favourite cruise lines at the end, our current favourite cruise lines. And that was number 2, ships can feel crowded. I think it'll take a lot to get me on an MSC ship again. On number 3, you get a limited time in port. Maybe the ship docks at 8, you have to be back on board by 5 o'clock. So you can get around to see the town or go on an excursion. But if you want to spend the evening by the harbour with a glass of wine or dinner, you can't fully immerse yourself in the city or town, the place you're visiting. But that's the trade-off you get with going on a cruise to go on a traditional land holiday. Obviously the advantage then, we get to go from place to place and see a lot instead of being stuck in one place. And if you want to do it, like I said at the start, the cost of going from place to place on a land holiday can be expensive. So what we've said is, if we come across a place we really like, we can always go back there on a traditional holiday, a land holiday, and spend more time there. Anyway, let's move on to number 4. And that is, let's have a look. Internet charges on board and upcharges in general. Right, let's get this out of the way first before the comments start. We already mentioned the internet. People go, why are you moaning about the internet? I'm on holiday, don't look at my computer. Why are people working? Why are people doing this? But many of us still have to work. The option is good to have the internet. Like, we work from home, we are self-employed, so we need that link. The prices they charge on board, especially some American ships, are astronomical. I don't know where they get these figures from. I find, again, the American tipping culture, I don't know, just pay people a proper wage. I'm not going to get political into this. That's their thing. So that's something you have to take into account. Also, short excursions. I don't know where they get some of these figures from as well. So again, with short excursions, you can do it yourself. You can find alternatives. They always come back to you. Oh, you may miss the ship. You may miss the ship. Look around. And internet charges, I don't know why they're so expensive. I do, because they make more money out of it. But anyway, if you've got tips to get around the internet charges, let us know in the comments below. Let's move on to the final thing on my list. Let's have a look. What's number 5? Embarkation and disembarkation. So, embarkation and disembarkation. I did mention we didn't like airports and they were so chaotic, but cruise terminals can be similar. It all depends on the cruise line, the size of the ship, where you are. Personally, we found the cruise ports in the UK to be quite good. They're often staffed by older people who are really friendly and helpful. Saying that, except one, a woman, a job's worth in Ocean Terminal. That's in Southampton. I haven't forgotten you, but basically they are friendly people. I remember my mum going through the terminal in Southampton, and she had a knife with her, that big, to peel her apple, she said. But they were really friendly with her, even though she was armed. I've noticed in America, they tend to be a bit more shouty. They think shouting at people is the way to be efficient for some reason. Don't know why. So it's a bit more chaotic in America, I've found. And also, like Miami and Fort Lauderdale, these are the biggest cruise ports in the world, aren't they? So there's far more chaos going on. So summarising, 5 pros and cons. I would say if you're going on your first cruise, I would look around at the different cruise lines. They can be very different and the ships are very different. So don't just jump into the cheapest. It may put you off for good. Look around carefully. I did say I was going to tell you what our favourite cruise lines are currently. I'm leaving out the super exclusive ones because we haven't been on any of those. At the moment, our favourite cruise lines are Celebrity and Princess. But that may change depending where we go in the future. Actually, our next trip is on one of those. So keep an eye out for that video. And Mel will be with me on those as well. And contrary to popular opinion, she hasn't kicked me out. I'm not living in a travel lodge. So some more cruise videos coming up next, and we'll see you in one of those. So until next time, bye.